Hello there, Gloria.
How
Hello.
are you?
I'm Jenny. Very nice to meet you.
Hi, Jenny. It's a pleasure. How's it going?
It's going very well. I like you. I've got my photos on the wall. You've got quite a lot of
There
photos
you
behind you as
go.
well.
Yes, I'm in my lair, in my library, where all the photo albums from an entire lifetime are sitting up there. I haven't actually looked through all of them, so yeah, I've spent a lot of time here in quarantine. It's where I did the put on your mask video on a green screen I'd bought 2 years prior.
So can I ask you then, because I mean, I'm in London at the moment. Where are you?
I'm in Miami Beach at my home, where we've been on lockdown since March 17th. I have another home 2.5 miles north in Vero Beach that I also spent the last 3 months there. So I spent 2 months and then 3 months there. And now I'm back here, back home.
Did you say you have another house 2 miles away?
No, 2.5 hours. I'm sorry. Yeah, that would have sounded weird. Sorry about that. Yes, so
Nice.
when I couldn't see my kids or my grandkid because they were locked away, I thought, okay, then I'll take my five four-legged furry kids up there and at least be a part of nature, and I could really ride a bicycle for an hour and a half a day and stay very active.
It's one of my favorite places, Miami, actually. I absolutely love it. But also, I mean, the fact is that everyone there is outside exercising and keeping fit anyway. So actually to do that in lockdown must have just been lovely.
It was. At the beginning of lockdown, I could walk over the bridge from here over to South Beach, and I was blown away because never in my entire life had I seen Ocean Drive empty. I mean, it was because the beaches were closed. So nobody could literally get on the sand. They blocked it away. They didn't want people congregating. So that was hard to see at the same time. It was very eerie.
There was nobody running up and down the boardwalk or anything.
No, there were people walking and some people running, but when lockdown really happened, they didn't want people traipsing around outside. So they were doing it very carefully at that time. Now people are more outside, but all masked. You have to wear a mask.
Well, look, it's lovely to chat to you. I should say encantada en conocerte.
Oh, very nicely done.
I mean, very rusty Spanish from my angle, but do you know what? It's what an exciting time for you, because obviously during lockdown, a lot of people have been sitting back, putting their feet up, really relaxing. But it looks like you've been pretty proactive, and you're now releasing your album.
Yeah. I've been very active. I'm a kind of person that likes to chill, and usually I would, they'd bring me my breakfast in bed, and I'm spoiled that way with my chihuahua there, Lulu. Well, you know what? Ever since I had to stay home, I've been getting up at the crack of dawn and getting out and doing things. It's almost like if I'm trying to balance the forced, lockdown. And I went into my attic at the beginning of this and emptied it out, 30 some years of stuff, and threw away things and organized all my kids. I mean, my son is going to be 40 September 2nd. And I had all his baby shoes and clothes and everything they did in school, every artwork. I organized it all, packed it away nicely. I did every closet that I intended to clean and knew I'd probably never get a chance, because you can't send someone else to do it. You have to choose things. I did Put On Your Mask, which was a parody of Get On Your Feet, because one of my best friends is an infectious disease specialist that has actually been on the task force with the government telling them what they should do. And she called me very frustrated at the end of March and said, Glo, please, I need your help. I know you do parodies and funny things. I want you to do a public service message about wearing masks. So someone else sent me all these masks out of the clear blue sky. And I said, universe enlisting me. I did that. I wrote a song called We Needed Time, inspired by my son and a conversation we had had. And I went out on my boat and filmed the video for it to capture all that solitary nature. The record I had done since 2017, I had planned it. It was ready for release last autumn, because my mom passed away and I couldn't bring myself to sing it. So it took me over a year before I could get back in the studio to do it. And I think the music found its right time. I don't think it would have had the impact it's had now, because people need joy. They need, and that's my job as a musician, to give some entertainment and make people forget their troubles for a bit.
Well, you do. Certainly in this album, you do as well. The album's Brazil305, isn't it? And
yes.
Like some of my favorite songs are on there. I mean, Rhythm is going to get, for me, is like one of the best songs ever. And it brings back so many amazing memories when I was growing up. And I just love the fact that that's on there as well. But all the songs this time, there's a lot of them that have a Brazilian twist. Why did you want to do that?
I've always loved Brazilian music, and the head of Sony Brazil knew it. He's a fan. And when I joined the band at 17, I asked them to learn all these classics like Corcovado, Desafinado, Chica de Ipanema, because I told my husband, he wasn't my husband yet, he was my boss at the time. I told him, I think it would really open up our musical appeal if we could do some Brazilian music, because I can sing it. So they did. In '83, we did an album called Rio, where I rewrote lyrics in Spanish to big Brazilian hits of the time by Rita Lee and Baby Consuelo and Wilson Simonal. So I've always loved it. And when he came to me, Alpha Verde from Sony, with this idea, the end of 2015, I loved it. And I said, I'd love to do it. I want to put a couple of original tunes on it. We went to Brazil, we recorded all the music. And like I said, when I came back and in early 17 was going to put my voice on, my mom got very ill and changed all our plans. But again, I say the universe conspired to have it come out now. And I think it's much more important to be able to, remember the beauty of music and how it transports us and helps us through tough times. That's what it did for me.
There's some brilliant songs on there as well. Which is your favorites of all the ones that you've done? You've probably been asked that question a million times, but
there are it's just so hard, because each one of those songs represents a different moment in my life when I was re-recording them all, which was also a great thing that most artists don't get to do. I mean, rarely do you go back and re-record your own hits. Do you
sing them differently now?
You have to, because when I went into the studio, you have to feel the rhythm that you're singing. And that's what was so exciting for me. That was so much fun to put a slightly different spin, because I also don't want to disappoint my fans and have them say, oh no, you totally trashed what I loved already. And I was blown away by the arrangements that these amazing musicians had done. I can't pick a favorite, but I have to say that for me, only because it was so new and different, the duet I did with Carlinhos Brown, Magaleña, which closes out the album. It's the fastest I've ever had to sing in my entire life in a language that is not my own. And that I got to work so closely with Carlinhos, who wrote that song for Sergio Mendes so many years ago. We established a really nice friendship when I was in Brazil. We shot a documentary that will air early next year in Brazil about the roots of samba, and I got to interview some of the top people there. It was really exciting, the whole project for me. So I'm happy that at least the music has come out now.
I'm so impressed as well that you were recording in another language, as you say. I mean, obviously you're fluent in Spanish and in English. Is Portuguese something that comes quite natural to you?
Well, I can understand it because of its roots, from Spain and Portugal, and it's a Romance languages are at the core. But it's got that Portuguese has every sound of every alphabet, including the Chinese ow, which is so hard. And then depending on what part of Brazil you're from, there's different pronunciation. So in the studio was Carlinhos Brown with me, and then a Brazilian vocal coach, because I like to do things well and I wanted it to sound legit. So, oh my God, to sing it it was not easy, I gotta tell you. It's a difficult language. It really is, pronouncing it anyway.
Are there any other languages you want to take on whilst we're at it?
Well, I speak French. J'ai étudié à l'université et au bac, mais il me montre pratique. I studied high school, and it was my minor in college. And I had been accepted to Sorbonne and was going to study international law and diplomacy. But by that time, I had met Emilio. At that point, we were already married when I graduated, and I figured, you know what? This is going well. We both love music. We have a backup career. So if something happens, we can always go back to it, but let's do the music, because it was our first love.
So you were at 17, you joined Miami Sound Machine, but were you studying all the way along then as well?
Yes. When I joined Miami Sound Machine, it was the summer of 1975, which I had just graduated high school. So since I had already declared my French minor, they offered me a college work study program at the airport. So I was working full time, 6 days a week, from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. in customs and immigration as an interpreter for Spanish, French, and English. Then I taught community school guitar 2 nights a week from 9:30 at night to 11:30 at night. Then I joined the band. I started school from 8 in the morning to noon. And the rest of the days I was rehearsing with the band and performing on weekends. So I literally had 3 jobs and a full-time school schedule. And I loved it because I took care of my dad all through high school. So the fact that I could do all this, he was already in the hospital. We couldn't care for him at home anymore. And I was doing everything I possibly could and loving every minute. But it was a lot of work.
There must have been an occasion where you're trying to juggle all these jobs, but then suddenly a gig comes up and you're like, oh, I want to do the gig, but I have to go and do the work. Did you ever call us?
Yeah, no. Emilio knew that absolutely that's why I joined, because we met at a wedding. Well, we met before that at a friend's house that he came to give us some pointers on how to get a band together. Then that summer, my mom dragged me to a wedding of one of my dad's army buddies. His daughter was getting married. We grew up. I walked in through the door in the reception because my mom was always late, so we missed the church ceremony. And I see this guy playing Do the Hustle on the accordion with this band. I go, first, he's very brave. And secondly, I know this guy. So we ran into each other in a door. He goes, oh, you're that girl that sang that day. I go, yeah. He goes, I sit in with the band. I go, well, I don't know. And so, do you know these Cuban standards that I know? And I sang 2 Cuban standards, got a standing ovation. They knew me my whole life, these people. And he asked me that night if I wanted to join the band, that he didn't have a singer. I go, look, my mom would kill me, number one. Secondly, I'm too busy. I'm starting school. I really can't. So 2 weeks later, he tracked me down and he promised me, he goes, look, I'm never going to make you miss anything else. You know, everything will come first. We do this for fun. I really think you'd be great. And there's no female singers in town. I think it'd be a really cool thing to have you be a part of this. And I really wanted to do it. So I joined.
Can I ask you your very first gig? Do you remember like the biggest?
Absolutely.
What was that? Was it scary?
I absolutely remember my very first. I was dying. It was at the DuPont Plaza Hotel on the river, October 25th of 1975. And I remember like literally slinking back into the band because Emilio at that time played congas and he was in the front. And I had brought my cousin Mercy to sing with me, even though he hadn't hired her, because my mom was freaking out about me being all over the city with a bunch of men. And I mean, they were young guys, but still not what a Cuban girl does. And I brought my cousin with me. So we would be in line with the band. And when my cousin left the band eventually and I started getting pushed out front, but I remember clinging to that mic stand and thinking, oh my God, I'm actually being backed by a band. I used to love the rehearsals even more because I don't like being the center of attention. I had to get used to that part. That was tough. My mother was the diva in my mind and in our life. She was an amazing singer, dancer, and she told jokes. When she walked into a room, everybody knew it. She was spectacular. So I have my dad's personality. I love music. I sang since I talked, and I played guitar and sang for my mother and my grandmother, but never did I think, oh, I'm going to be some singer. My grandma would bring people to listen to me, and I'd go, Grandma, that's not me. And she goes, it's going to land in your lap, and I hope you're smart enough the day it does to accept it, because you're not going to be happy unless you do music. That's your calling in this life. That's your gift. You have to do it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. How amazing, though. And it all worked out. But I imagine going out on the stage that first time with all those faces staring up at you. It must be quite daunting for a singer as well.
My heart was beating. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. But at the same time, I was so excited, and Emilio, who has a keen eye, and thank God I learned to speak Emilio, because if not, I would have punched him. He said to me when we started dating, he looks at me and he goes, you're amazing in the rehearsals, but you could really improve about 95%. I go, what? What 5% are you dating me for here? But it was that he could see how I was natural and relaxed in rehearsals, and I would freak out when I would be on stage. So at this point, I understood how he spoke, and I didn't take it personally. And it was just about letting myself relax and let people see how much I love music and how it made me feel. And by the time we broke through internationally, it was 10 years. And those 10 years were valuable for me every step of the way. I learned every gig we did, I learned something new.
When you look back at all the gazillion gigs that you've done, because you've done some huge gigs as well, what is the biggest gig and the biggest audience that you've performed to?
If you're going to talk about, people watching me, then it would have to be the Olympics or the Super Bowl. There were billions of people. And that's why those are very pressure-filled gigs, because if you screw up live and you'll never live it down. So fortunately, it went well. I think the biggest gig with people in person was on the banks of one of the rivers. Where was it? It was 150,000 people in that. The biggest indoor gig was the Aztec Stadium in Mexico, 110,000 people there. So yeah, it becomes like, in fact, they scared me to death because I started singing Anything for You had been a big hit in Spanish, but I had been singing it in English the whole tour. So I started singing it in Spanish for them. And there's a delay in these stadiums. So the reaction for the song came 2 seconds late. And the roar of the crowd scared me so badly that I forgot the lyrics to the song completely. And I pretended my microphone was broken and I'm scrambling thinking, oh my God, what are the lyrics in Spanish? Yeah, that was hairy. Those were before the days where you could put a prompter just in case, because I had the songs in multiple languages. So
it was so, gosh, you do so much. And then also, obviously, you've got the show, the theatre show on your feet, which is doing so well too. Do you think that we'll hear again in the UK?
I absolutely hope it gets back on its feet, because it was doing phenomenally and we had to cut it short because of COVID. I hope the theaters survive. That's my first hope. Because we're seeing it here in New York as well. Theaters that have been around for decades have closed permanently because they couldn't survive this. So I am hoping and praying that the government helps out in whatever way they can to keep the arts alive too, because it's crucial. That's why I'm so happy this album came out now rather than when it was intended in 2017, because I think that we need joy. And, that's what artists do. We kind of translate life into music or painting or writing. And theater to me is it's the hardest gig for me that I've ever seen, especially when I got involved and we did this show. These people put on 8 shows a week and it's singing, dancing, and acting. And it's really amazing to see that live and close. So I hope that we can save that genre and that we get back out on the road.
Yeah, no, it's really difficult. In fact, one of the big shows in London's West End, Phantom of the Opera, which has been there forever, it has now closed permanently as well. It is very sad. So many jobs as well with that have gone.
Yes, and they have no way, these people, to make a living, because if the genre, is destroyed, where are they going to go with this? And it's a very unique thing that they do. I have nothing but respect for these performers and artists. They're really incredible.
No, absolutely. Well, look, I really appreciate you chatting to me today. In the UK at the moment, there is a heat wave, and it's in this room right now, it's about 35 degrees. It's got really dark outside because there's about to be a huge clatter of thunder. And in the UK, we don't have air conditioning. So as you can see, I'm really hot. You, however,
you actually have a youthful glow. It's very hot here too, but we have a lot of air conditioning. In fact, whenever I tell Europeans, I find out they're coming to Miami, I go, bring a sweater. They go, but we're going in the summer. I go, for inside, you're going to need a jacket, because they're always too cold inside. We keep it freezing because so hot. So I hope
every time I've come to Miami, I've always brought a jumper for going inside, for going to dinner, because it's just, you get really cold otherwise. You have to go outside to warm up for 5 minutes and come back in again.
Well, we're used to it.
Yeah, well, right now I have to go outside to cool down just for a few seconds because it's so hot. But look, I really appreciate you talking to me. Thank you. And good luck with the album. The album's out this month. I cannot wait to hear all the tracks on it, because
it's out. Today it's out. Well, I don't know when we're speaking or when we're putting this, but August 13th, it's out.
Oh, fabulous. Gloria Estefan, muchas gracias.
De nada, mucho gusto. Thank you.